Coconuts, it's PK here, and over the past couple months I've gotten several requests to do an attack style video explaining what I use to attack. There's several different styles that people can use. Some of them Frankenstein up various pieces. A lot can go with a troop attack debuff or enemy troop attack debuff style using steel. Some try to debuff the defenses. I like to focus on troop HP. That's what I worked on for a really long time, and it does pretty well for me. So for the most part, that is what I stick with. Now, of course, everybody's defenses are different, so I'm not going to tell you that this type of attack is going to work and be the best type of attack to use against everybody, because it's just not. But for the most part, I feel like I play it safe and I use the HP debuff attack. I usually send a mixed march, and I do fairly well for myself given my size, or you know, so I feel anyhow. So that's what we are going to talk about. Now, the most important thing in your HP debuff is going to be your gear. You may have heard a lot of people talk about Raj, and that's what you use with the HP debuff. That's specifically Radiant Head and Chest Piece mixed with Majestic Rest, and that forms together to create Raj. So when you're doing HP debuff, you're going to be using Radiant on your main hero. We'll pull that up here with the Majestic second accessory. And then for your deputies is where the Raj comes in. And let's talk about why that is effective. That is because the Majestic Head and Chest is going to be giving you a larger amount of enemy troop HP debuff than the other pieces of gears. And then, of course, the rest of Majestic that you're using also gives you a fairly high enemy troop HP debuff. If you're going to enhance anything or engrave anything, you're going to want to focus on those Majestic accessories, because they're going to give you that additional engraving bonus of enemy troop HP debuff. At 50% per piece, that adds up a lot, even if it's on your deputies and only a portion of that is going towards your main attack. Another thing that's really important is going to be your choice of pets. I like to focus on the satyr. It took me a really long time to build these guys up to all be plus 15. But at plus 15, they're going to give you a 120% enemy troop HP debuff. The only thing that's going to be really outperforming them is if you know what troop type you're hitting. And you can then instead go with your Crimson style pets. At plus 15, they're going to give you a 150% HP debuff. But again, that is specific towards that troop type. So if your enemy is using, you know, a pre-meat or has other type of mixed troops in there, that's not going to be as effective as using the satyr. I think the only pet that's going to be more effective than this is going to be that Cerberus. And let me check the CODEX real quick. So I think that was a 200% when he's at plus 15. Yeah, you're going to get, or even, okay, at plus 10, he's going to give you an additional 200% enemy troop HP buff decrease upon dragon deployment. Now, there aren't currently any runes that are going to debuff HP. Our new rabbit hero, I don't know how to say her name properly. Is it Odali or Odali? I'm not sure. I say both depending on my mood. But Odali's Blessing rune is going to give you a debuff to troop defense. So I do like to use that. And then your auras, although temporary, your dark power auras are going to give you a decrease to your enemy base HP. That's going to be huge and very significant. However, it's only effective if you know what troop types you're hitting. Since I typically don't, I just go ahead and equip the infantry one, because most people are going to be using infantry to defend. Now, just like the chaotic house that is down here, that does the T7 base HP, but anything that's going to affect the base stats is only going to be effective on your main hero. So don't waste auras by equipping them on your guard captains, on your deputies, because they're not even, nothing's going to go towards your main attack, only your main hero. Speaking of those house powers, we can dip into more of an HP debuff by filling out your Draconic house. He's going to give you an additional 30% on your main hero, plus a portion of your deputies, depending on where your research and VIP and all that jazz is at. Now, there are a lot of other things that are going to help with an HP debuff. I'm pretty sure I've written the most of them down, but if I forget anything, feel free to write it down in the comments below, because every little bit helps. So we've already gone over gear, we've gone over pets, we've gone over the auras. Now there's also the Hall of War enhancement. If you enhance that all the way up to level 40, that's going to give you a 293% HP debuff. We also have these temple contracts. If you look at the Draconic house, that's going to give you an enemy HP debuff as well. Your Lord skills have two little slots that are going to give you a 20% HP debuff and an 80% HP debuff. So you can get 100% total. So there's that 20%. We can keep on going down. I don't want to pass it. There we go. And that's an additional 80% there. There's also some type debuffs that are going to be in here. So I went ahead and filled those out too. A big one for me is these obelisk set bonuses that come with invasion. Now, not only does the Obelisk of Steel and Invasion give a fairly impressive 200% enemy troop HP debuff, but it also, if you are enhancing or filling out the rest of your obelisk as well, it's going to give you a bunch of type HP decreases too. So that one is a big one. Now, of course, there's also various researches that are going to be helping you with that. Probably the most notorious are going to be those dragon researches, more specifically Dragon 2. Your Dragon 1 research is going to have about 150% of the enemy troop HP buff decrease. That's going to be found in 3 different researches: 10% debuff, 40% debuff, and 100% debuff, if I can recall correctly. We won't go through all that, but I'm pretty sure it's right around 150%. But that spikes when you come into Dragon 2 research, because that's going to be a 200% debuff and a 300% debuff, which makes to a whopping 500% with Dragon 2. And that's why solos have become very deadly. In addition, of course, not just the enemy troop HP debuff, but also the defense debuff and troop attack debuff, and then all the other stats that Dragon 2 gives. But it becomes really deadly. I think right now, and I'm not the hardest hitter. Again, I am working with finally a +10 set of Radiant, but my side pieces are still at +5. And I know a lot of people are using those pretty high Cerberuses now, which I am not. But I have about a troop HP debuff of around 4,700. And that's not going into the additional dragon HP debuffs and troop type debuffs and all that jazz. I think I'm pretty close to around 6,500 total. Around 6,500. Somewhere in between there. Again, it's what I like to use personally. I feel like it's pretty effective. I started using it when I was getting around a 3200% HP debuff. I started noticing that it was better than using my triple radiant at that time in most cases for myself. Again, it's always going to depend on who you're hitting, because if they don't have a lot of HP, then you're just going to be wasting a whole bunch of your HP debuff, and your extra attack would be more effective, because you can't go negative in this game. So if someone has 3500 HP and I'm hitting them with 6000% HP debuff, that's not going to hit them any harder than if I was using 3500 HP debuff. So in a case like that, I'd be much more effective if I hit them with something that had less HP debuff and more attack, if that makes sense. I hope that's helpful for you guys. I feel like I've forgotten something. If I forget something, go ahead and leave it down in the comments below. We all like to learn from each other. That's what I do love about this community, is everybody's really great about sharing little tidbits of information and helping everybody test. I know this invasion was fantastic with those 95% revival buffs and healing buffs. Make sure that you let the developers know on the forum posting or through your contact here. You can go into more and then contact us and kind of let them know that you appreciate those kinds of revival buffs and healing buffs. I definitely saw a lot more people unshielding and willing to take hits and figure things out, so that was awesome. We have a whole bunch of stuff coming up with the 3rd anniversary. I hope to do a video shortly just going over the May events. And like, follow us on www.ironthroneelite.com. Until next time.